Hi, this is Cajun. This is a pre-recorded conference call. We've been having trouble with Zoom as a provider, and it's been a bit spotty, to say the least, as more and more people are coming online to work from home and do things like that based on the pandemic. So what we'd probably like to do is connect this conference call with the last call. The last call had a lot to do with the ripple effects from the pandemic that we're all facing, and the fact that we were going to shift company resources toward joining this fight based on several calls to action, asking for natural language processing organizations to help find connections in scientifically published literature related to COVID-19. So we have more than an obligation to help in that area. But first off, we do have a company to run, and we understand that it's important for us to keep an eye on global events, not just based on the pandemic, but the ripple effects that can affect our industry, or the value of our industry, or the industry of our partners or competitors. So as we keep an eye on those things, we'll probably want to tie them into what's happening with the pandemic, because everything seems to be related right now. What's happening with the pandemic is going to cause economic ripples. We know that, and economic ripples will cause other kinds of problems, including unemployment. So if you look at the infection rates around the world, the U.S. now leads in terms of infection rates. It's important to keep an eye on mortality rates. Italy has mortality rates of around 10%, over 10%, while the U.S. has mortality rates of around 1.7%. Nevertheless, unemployment on a global scale is going to be like something the world has never seen. And within the United States, obviously, we'd be looking at double-digit employment numbers. I think there was a 30% unemployment rate with the last, with the 1929 depression. And if you extrapolate, you can imagine we'd be looking at quite a number of individuals being out of work. 20 to 50 million people possibly, if you look at the population of the United States at 347 million. So keeping an eye on these things, we want to see how it might affect our industry or our markets. If we connect what's happening to the industry that we're in, the data set, NLP, NLU, AI, ML industry, we're obviously looking at a complete sea change in the way people are thinking about natural language processing and data sets right now. Most of the effort happening with natural language processing and data sets are now geared toward this pandemic. And that's what we've noticed. We've been keeping an eye on it. We'd say that most companies involved in this area are lending a percentage of their time and resources to go to war with this virus here. So we're doing the same. And when you look at what we are involved with on the life sciences side and have been in the past, and how we're contributing today with data sets, it's going to unveil some unique opportunities that we can talk about in just a bit. But meanwhile, when you look at our industry, you also see colleges and universities. They're now starting to teach classes in COVID-19 and its connection to data science. That's been all over the news, and just on the biological side as well. You'll notice that companies are releasing data sets and are in a hurry to release them, obviously. Google, being the latest entrant, is releasing COVID-19 data sets. They've made an announcement, and how that's going to play into exactly what we're doing in terms of adding data sets and providing data sets that are unique, different than from data sets that groups like Google might be providing. We're also looking at an exponential increase in demand for NLP and NLU services and data sets surrounding COVID-19. So here we are within this industry, and we're faced with multiple challenges and multiple opportunities. So this is what we plan on executing on as we look ahead. On the crypto side, in terms of the crypto industry, one of the recent interesting pieces of news was that Microsoft filed a crypto patent on mining crypto using the body's energy. So we know that a lot of these big companies have filed patents in the blockchain or crypto space and are obviously planning on doing quite a bit. So another reason to understand how crypto plays a big part of the future. We're also noticing that cash is still moving to the sideline from other asset classes. And if you connect this to unemployment, you're probably going to look at people sell certain assets that they have, including crypto. There might be a bit of sell pressure on crypto because of the unemployment numbers. But the amount of cash on the sidelines that needs to be put to work far outweighs any amount of cash that the unemployed are going to be taking and putting on the sidelines. There's a lot of institutional cash right now on the sidelines. There's a lot of professional investment cash sitting on the sidelines. And this needs to be put to work. I think that most people are going to understand that crypto would be the proper store of value, the safest asset class, the one that will appreciate the most over time, especially as they lose faith in the banking systems once again. On the corporate side, we are pretty focused in terms of our corporate development or business development on the three relationships that we have right now. The first with Amazon, the second with Microsoft, and the third with Bloomberg. We have relationships with other partners and customers we'll talk about, but we have a complete focus right now on the three relationships that I just mentioned. So we're not going out and actively engaging in business development or exploring other kinds of revenue-generating customer partnerships at this point. We want to use Amazon and Microsoft as a platform, and we want to use Bloomberg as a platform. Not just a showcase, but as a revenue-generating platform, a distribution platform. So that's part of our corporate strategy. On the engineering side, you'll notice that we provided a link in the press release to essentially what is a search and recommendation or search and discovery engine into the COVID papers data set. And what we plan on doing is expanding that on the engineering side to something we've already done in the crypto space and in the financial space, and that is to enable a data set builder. And that would be that it would be an interface that you inserted your own column labels or your own features, customized features, and then clicked a button, and then you get a data set related to infectious diseases correlated to the features you selected based on the papers that have been published and new papers that are coming in. That kind of flexibility and that kind of on-the-fly customization for building any kind of data set someone can think of, that interface we have up and running. It's prototyped, it's ready to go. This is what we're going to roll out next, is an actual data set builder. Not just a single static data set or not just a set of 2 to 3 updating data sets. We'll include those, but we'll also have this data set builder where any scientist or researcher can insert column labels or features that they're interested in and then receive correlation values based on the natural language understanding algorithms we have on the back end, the way we do vector calculations for similarity. So we're going to make this available. We'll issue a PR on this as well, and Microsoft and Amazon will also be talking about this. And they're going to be doing that as soon as possible. So hopefully this week, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. We're also going to be looking at data sources that include patents. We've dabbled in this over the years, but right now, if you look at the way drug patents are structured, There's information that can be mined and relationships that can be extracted that might lead to new drug discoveries or new repurposing of drugs. So we're going to be looking at what we can do in the patent area there as a data source. For now, with the dataset builder, we just want to enable a researcher to generate a dataset and then be able to visualize that dataset based on a graph network, based on things we've already offered in the traditional and in the crypto space. But to be able to visualize a graph network and see relationships and be able to interpret the data better, because after all, that's what data science is all about. At the end is enabling another scientist to be able to interpret the data and draw a conclusion or come up with a new hypothesis real quick, or even a discovery. And that's what we're accelerating. So on the engineering side, that's one of the end goals. On the customers, partners, and collaborators, we touched on it before. Amazon is our number one target right now, and that's mainly because Kyle and his group are focused on life sciences, and more recently, obviously, focused on a pure COVID-19 approach in terms of bringing data sets in and understanding their value and offering them to their customers. Some of the things we talked about on the 26th of March with Kyle at Amazon was the fact that they had fast-tracked us to a whitelisting, and a whitelisting is a way that they can determine how they'll vouch for you as a company and the quality of your company and whether or not your company is offering something of value to their customers and to the world. So we've passed with flying colors on that, and they wanted to make sure that we have anonymized our data, and we have no need to do that because we're working with all public data now. So they also wanted an overview of our data sources, which we provided them with related to COVID-19. And we'll next be providing them with our first COVID-19 data set. And they're going to connect us with a lady by the name of Katie Swartwood, and she is their startup liaison. So she acts as their point person in terms of dealing with startups. And they said this is because startups are more agile and they act a lot faster than larger companies. And they're interested in fast-tracking companies that can provide value, but also at the same time working with companies that can work really fast on this COVID-19 stuff. We'll also be introduced to a guy named Fred Lee. He works with Kyle on the life sciences side. So that'll be another point person for us. And they also took the time to talk about introducing us to a pharmaceutical customer that they have, a pharmaceutical company. And that company is looking for data sets that we might be able to offer them. And this is an example of a form of immediate business development that occurs when you interface with a company on this level here, where they trust what you're doing, they understand the value of what you're doing, and they're willing to vouch for you and introduce you to their customers. So this is what Kyle did. He introduced us to a pharmaceutical company, and they're working on a COVID-19 vaccine, and they're working on acquiring data sets related to COVID-19 and DNA or RNA sequences. So we're going to see how far we get with them. But I wanted to mention that because that's the kind of business development that's already happening based on this complete shift. Now, on the Microsoft side, it's largely going to be the same as Amazon's. On the Bloomberg side, we're going to be talking with Bloomberg about what we're doing with the COVID-19 data sets, but we're also going to be talking with them about offering data sets that enable short baskets to be generated. We're also going to reach out to Tableau. And they have a COVID-19 data set initiative they're moving forward. They're a visualization company, not a data company. So that means that they're always looking for data to showcase what they're doing on the visualization side, similar to Elastic. So we might be talking with them. Looks like if you produce a data set related to COVID-19 and it's valuable, then it should be placed everywhere it can be. On the exchanges side, we have an introduction. We were introduced to the guys over at KuCoin. So we're going to see how far we get with them. We're not interested in paying some kind of exorbitant listing fee at this point. So that's why we're kind of leaning toward Kraken. But we'll see what we can work out. A lot of it does have to do with whether or not an exchange provides exposure for U.S. customers. Most of our customers are going to be in the U.S. for now. So we're going to have to provide access to U.S. customers. The exchange we work with is going to have to provide access to U.S. customers. And we'd also like some Asian exposure at the same time. So there's a balance there that we're trying to achieve. On the PR and the IR side, we have Amazon that's going to be talking about us. We have Microsoft, and we've got Bloomberg. And we might be attending the newdata.co event. Now, pre-corona, as some people say, before the virus, we were talking about interfacing with NewData on a daily basis, as they represent about 70 hedge funds. They probably don't represent 70 hedge funds today, post-virus, as many of those have probably imploded or have completely changed out operations. So we want to introduce new data to the kind of data sets that we're working on right now with COVID-19, but at the same time introduce public companies, pharmaceutical companies that might be correlated to infectious disease and so forth. So data sets that are an intersection between life sciences and the financial markets. That's what we're going to be talking with new data about. We'll also have ongoing COVID-19 data sets. We're going to be producing all kinds of data sets related to categories or ontologies of genomic data, for example. So that gives us a chance to talk to the world multiple times about what we're doing on the COVID-19 side and what we're capable of doing, even outside of just a focus on solving for this infectious disease. But other kinds of industries in life science, or other kinds of verticals within the life sciences industry. The dataset builder is also on the PR and the IR side. We'll be announcing to the public that's available. We intend to do that this week. Another aspect of what we do connects to the PR and the IR side, and that's the investment club. It's a form of PR and IR. And it will be a way that we can showcase something outside of life sciences, which would be the short side. Our ability to provide data sets that provide an edge in a down market on the short side, ones that produce short baskets. So by involving the public in an investment club, it enables us to, again, showcase, and it's a form of messaging to the public in terms of our capabilities. So we're going to continue to move that forward. On the funding side, we usually don't talk about the funding side. Sometimes we talk about the capital side or the revenue side. But today, based on the downturn in the markets, if you haven't already seen, capital will be drying up. Credit markets will be drying up. It'll be very hard for companies to get loans. or investment. So that's one of the reasons why we're here in the crypto space. Because we know that when we offer value, the value will come back to us and come back to this company and make it even stronger than before. It's a virtuous cycle. What we're looking at today is a massive amount of funding being available to companies that provide solutions for the pandemic. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're going to avail ourselves of certain aspects of funding that the government might be providing related to COVID-19, and that would include grants. So we're going to be exploring grants. We're going to be, if possible, engaging in collaborations where our data sets will provide value to maybe someone writing a grant somewhere, but we'll also be writing our own grants as well. So we'll keep the company updated on how that goes. There are other philanthropic organizations that want to fund this war against the virus. We'll be in contact with those because we certainly need to expand our resources on the engineering side if we really want to make the largest possible impact here. On the revenue side, a focus on the disease COVID-19 is not the only life sciences issue our data sets can address. And that's a key point. There are going to be lots of things related to infectious diseases, for example. And that's just one small aspect of the entire sphere of life sciences. Our data sets can operate outside the life sciences industry, but also within multiple verticals inside the life sciences industry. And that's how we intend to grow at this point. So when it comes to revenue, we do not plan on charging for anything related to the pandemic, but we do need a company to be able to capitalize itself and be able to run. So we anticipate being able to provide customized data sets related to all infectious diseases and related to anything in the life sciences or biosciences area. And that's where we'll engage in our subscription process. And in tandem, we'll be executing on the data sets on the short side related to short baskets. So in terms of our overall strategy, we have a focus on Amazon, Microsoft, and Bloomberg, and we will be bringing Elastic and Splunk new data to Sigma and JPM back in at the right time here. Meanwhile, as of yesterday, the U.S. tested 894,000 people for the COVID-19 disease. At the time, there were 136,799 infections and 2,397 deaths. So out of the 890, we did some just minor arithmetic here, and the numbers are interesting. So out of 894,000 Americans tested, with 136,799 testing positive, that gives a 15% ratio for people testing positive. And with 2,397 deaths at a 1.7% death rate, what you can look at here is that 15% of the population of the United States, 347 million, equals 52,050,000 Americans testing positive. That would equal, with a death rate or mortality rate at 1.7%, that would equal 884,850 deaths. So this thing can turn out to be, this virus is a certain threat, and that's why it's changing the world in terms of how we look at resources and what kinds of resources we intend to acquire in terms of fighting this virus, and what resources are available to us. So it's apparent that a lot of companies have shifted their resources. Even GM stopped producing cars to produce respirators and face masks. For us, we have more than an obligation because we understand what needs to be done here on a natural language processing and natural language understanding level. So we certainly have shifted company resources, a percentage of our resources, but that will come with rewards. It gives us an opportunity to showcase, it gives us new opportunities in terms of being connected to pharmaceutical companies, providing services in the area of data sets and artificial intelligence and machine learning. It affords us the ability to apply for grants and government funding related to probably what's going to be the most funded effort in the history of humankind, is fighting this global virus. And this is all about life sciences, something that we know a bit about. And if you look at how large the life sciences industry was pre-corona, as some people say, what about now? It's orders of magnitude larger, and that's why we're here. We're on the right side of history. So I won't ask if anyone has any questions because this is a pre-recorded call, so I'll just close the call now and see everyone online. Thanks. Bye.